Right, so today I'm going to talk about the Guardians of the Galaxy video game, and I'm late on this. There's a reason why I'm late on this. If you've been following my streams, if you've been watching my Twitch at any capacity over the last month and a bit, you will know that when I started playing Guardians at first, there was a glitch with the scan and it just wasn't working. So I had to wait 2 patches for the scan to be fixed on the PS4 version of the game. I fully understand that that is a totally unique experience for me. It doesn't impact how I feel about the game as a whole, because when the game worked, after the game had been patched and that glitch had, been taken out of the game, I had a blast with it. I'm just gonna say that out of the gate for anyone that doesn't know anything about the Guardians of the Galaxy game, that is maybe a bit turned away by the whole you only play as Star-Lord thing, or just if you are apprehensive about getting into the Guardians of the Galaxy game, if you haven't played it yet, I would wholly recommend getting it and playing it, because the game is up there with Insomniac Spider-Man for me. Story-wise and probably gameplay-wise as well, it's up there. It's up there with that level of, superhero video game. Insomniac Spider-Man is the judging point, and this is kind of there. I'd personally say it might be better story-wise. The story might be better because it did have more moments. Just the characters in it are more relatable, as weird as that will say, because Spider-Man's whole thing is he's the most relatable superhero, but I felt more attached to the Guardians at the end of this than certainly at the end of the MCU films, and certainly in any other depiction of the Guardians outside of comic books. This is the best depiction of the team, of the characters, that I've seen outside of the comics. It is still very MCU-esque with its characterization, but because there is more time for these characters to grow and there's less MCU-isms in it, these characters are allowed to be themselves, but there is that inspiration from the MCU, because that's what people know, that's what people that's what people will gravitate towards, and they'll see, that reminds me of the film that I like, I'm going to play that, and then they'll start playing it and they'll realise, oh shit, Adam Warlock's in this, oh shit, Mantis is completely different to what she is in the movies. And, everything in this is done so well. Like, the story-wise, the narrative of this game is so good. Like, it's just more focused. It's just more like, it allows every character to kind of have a moment to shine and have a moment where you care about them, and by the end of the game you will be attached to these characters way more than you are in the MCU at this point. I don't know, Guardians 3 might delve into the backstories of the Guardians more, but I doubt it. The way that the story's going, I doubt it. But this is the perfect introduction to the Guardians as characters, even though at the point in the story is they've been a team for about a few months. They're not quite gelled yet. by the end of the game, they are like a unit. They are at a much better place by the end of the game than they are in the MCU at this point. But at the start of the game, they're not really meshing as a unit yet. Rocket, Star-Lord, and Groot have been in the team for a while, but Drax and Gamora, they've got a tension, and there's tension with Drax and the rest of the team. There's tension with Gamora and Drax, and all of that is kind of it's kind of played for laughs, but not really, and you kind of feel like no one really takes Peter seriously because he's human, and then you have to spend like the entire first half of the game just gaining the respect of your team, and then the second half of the game is like you're a team unit. You're basically unstoppable, and that is reflected in the gameplay as well. The first half of the game, it's difficult. It is hard, and then the second half of the game, I wasn't dying nearly as much. I think I died like twice, and one of those was on the final boss. So yeah, or not final boss, because you know the actual final boss is like in the after credits scene. So you know, when the game starts scrolling for the credits and you see the Milano flying, don't turn off the game, because there's more gameplay after that. The after credits scene is, you know, an extra boss fight. So I really appreciated that, and that was one of the moments on stream where I was like, holy shit, I did not expect that. But yeah, the game's great. The game is just great. There are things I would change. I wasn't familiar with who the villain was. The Grand Unifier Raker. I don't think that's a very. I think that's a very deep pull, because it's a character that I don't know, and you know I've been reading comics for a while. Granted, not a lot of them Guardians comics, but I wasn't familiar with who the villain was. I wasn't familiar with a lot of characters in this outside of, you know, the main Guardians and Cosmo and Adam Warlock, obviously. But I feel like the game does take a lot of deep pulls, and that may either work to its favour or to its detriment, because you have this risk of alienating the casual audience by like being like, I don't recognize any of these characters. This is way too deep for me. I'm worried. I'm scared. I don't know what's going on. I don't really want to play this game because I don't recognize those people. Or you have like, it's doing something different to the MCU. I appreciate that. And the characters are written well. You know, it makes sense for the story that they're trying to tell, and it does lead towards a very emotional ending, which saw me nearly cry on stream. So, you know, that's something, I guess. The game does do some interesting choices. The whole idea that Star-Lord may be a dad. I don't want to spoil how that ends, but there's a large majority of this game is spent with Peter Quill wrestling with the fact that he may have a child, and that child is being used by the main villain. So there's a lot of emotional stuff with that, and it all comes to a head at the end of the game. And the way that was done was magnificent. It was beautiful, and it had the same emotional effect as you know, Aunt May dying at the end of Marvel Spider-Man. You know, it really was a beautiful scene. And then you have the actual end, which is just crazy and, you know, balls to the wall, and you don't see it coming at all, but then it happens and you're like, this is amazing. And there are so many moments in this game. Like, there's a Fin Fang Foom boss fight that I did not see coming going into the game, because I was like, that's an Iron Man villain and he's a giant dragon, and I did not expect to see Fin Fang Foom in the game. He's referenced right at the start, but you don't expect, like, loads of things are referenced but not shown, like symbiotes, like the Skrulls, Kree, fucking hell, there's a Kree sentry literally in the PS4 like thumbnail screen before the game actually opens. There's a lot of references in here. There's even like a reference to Marvel's Avengers, like in the scene where you go and see different like universes and realities. You have one where it's just Captain America, it's the same voice actor for Marvel's Avengers, just going Avengers Assemble, and Hulk just like yelling. So that was really cool, and like, you know, synergy, because it's implied this may be in the same universe as Avengers, but it's never outright shown. Like, Captain America doesn't show up at the end, Iron Man doesn't show up at the end, or anything like that. But, you know, it could very well be the case, especially with that going on, and it even goes to a point where you're like trying to find backup and reinforcements to go take on the church, and you're like, and Rocket suggests, like, doesn't Earth have some heroes? Doesn't Earth have like superheroes? And Star-Lord's like, those people in pajamas, they're not as advanced as everyone else. They're not gonna be able to do anything. Which I found quite funny, and it's like, is this in the same universe? I would love it to be, but I would also love it not to be, because that means we can get our own version of the Guardians in Marvel's Avengers, and this can stay its own thing. But yeah, at the end of the day, this game is amazing. The only gripe I have is that you only play as Star-Lord. The way that they get around it is kind of interesting, but like, I would have just preferred to be able to swap who I play as on the fly, other than just tell Drax to hit someone, or tell Rocket to, you know, fire grenades, or tell Groot to wrap someone up in like tree stuff. I would rather be able to control the other characters like have them be playable. I would rather this have the same gameplay style as like a Marvel Ultimate Alliance, but keep the perspective that it is. I mean, as it is, the core gameplay is fun, and it's focused, and it feels good to play, and some of the animations later in the game are amazing, but I would just have preferred to be able to play as every character, and hopefully, you know, this game seems to be doing quite well, so hopefully it gets a sequel, hopefully it gets some DLC, and, you know, fingers crossed in the sequel we're able to play as the rest of the Guardians, because that's all I really want. Just to be able to play as Drax, play as Rocket, play as Groot, play as Gamora, and possibly play as Adam Warlock, because that would be amazing. Not really much else for me to say. The Guardians of the Galaxy game is incredible. It's nothing short of fantastic. despite a few bugs and like only one playable character for a team game, you know, I can't really fault anything else for the game that we got, for the story that was told and everything. I cannot recommend this enough. I cannot recommend it enough. So if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next video. By the way, Thankmas is happening at the end of the month. I mean, it technically is the end of the month, but at the end of the month, on November 30th, we are starting raising money for New Start. I've done a video already talking about this, but I'm going to talk about it again because it's really important. Basically, anyone with a like Twitch channel, TikTok, YouTube channel, Twitter, anyone can get involved. Just share the donation link. Just do something cool to spread awareness for a really great charity. Obviously, Thankmas every year, spearheaded by Jacksepticeye. I do my best to do my part. I did it last year, I'm doing it this year. Every stream from November 30th to December 11th will be raising money for New Start. The goal, fingers crossed, we raise £100. Been the goal for every charity stream that I've done. This one being no different. We've never been able to reach it, but hopefully this time we can. I'll see you guys there. So yeah, go head over to my Twitch. I stream every day anyway, but this is just an extra thing I'm doing that is for charity. Whew. I'll see you guys over on my Twitch. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.